So chapter 1 is a great place to start. What this chapter is going to go over, it's going to go over what science is and specifically what physical science is. And then also we're going to look at the idea of measurement to see how we take measurements and why we use certain units. So you're in science class, but what does that mean exactly? What is science? Well, here's some definitions that your book gives. It says that science is an organized body of knowledge about the natural universe. So this is telling us that we have this body of knowledge, and you know what? That body of knowledge is still growing. We never stop learning about what's happening in the universe. And then we have that word universe. Now, universe by definition means everything. So we're not talking about parallel universes or anything like that. We have everything in the observable universe, which makes sense because for science to happen, we have to observe something that's going to go on. Next, it says method of explaining and predicting events in the observable universe. Well, that makes sense. We can use it to explain what happens, and we're going to be able to predict what's going to happen the next day. So maybe you're going to look at the weather prediction of the next day. Is it going to be nice or is it going to be horrible? Or maybe we're trying to explain why a certain event happened in the past. Now, to do all of this science type information, we have to use some sort of measurement. So we're going to talk about that later in this chapter. We have to use observations. So we have to use our senses to make those observations. And we're going to use that measurement and those observations as a basis for that explanation and discoveries. And remember, it never stops. We're always learning. And that's kind of the cool thing about science is there's always more to learn. There are many different areas of science. The two main categories are social sciences and natural sciences. Now, social sciences are going to be like sociology and psychology. We don't necessarily deal with those areas. We're going to be dealing with the natural sciences. Natural sciences can be broken to the biological, that's living things. So, biology, zoology, botany, microbiology, anatomy, and physiology. Those also are not things that we're going to cover. Those, if you're on campus, they're taught across the hall from me. From the name of this class, you know that we're going to deal with the physical sciences, which are the sciences of non-living things. So let's look at these. First, we have physics. Now, physics is the most fundamental science. It deals with the interaction between matter and energy and the forces mediating those interactions. In fact, this guy named Ernest Rutherford, we'll hear about him later on. He said, um, in science, there's only physics, all the rest is stamp collecting. Now, that may not be my favorite quote of all time, but I thought it was kind of interesting. I realize physics gets a bad rap, it gets a bad name. But one of the things I'm hoping to achieve is that you understand all of these sciences are related and there's really no dividing line. Even between the physical and biological sciences, you'll see that there are some overlaps. To really understand one, you have to have a basic knowledge of all the others. That's what this class is designed for. You get a little bit of everything. So back to our list here. We have chemistry. Chemistry is the study of matter. Now, matter has this great definition. Anything that has mass and takes up space, I call it stuff. So any type of stuff. Its properties and how it interacts with other things. Again, that's my background. We have astronomy. So astronomy is the study of the universe. Do you remember what universe is? Everything. Now, astronomy was actually the starting point for a lot of the others because people would look up to the stars and the planets and they would try to start making predictions and they started gaining that body of knowledge. Now, next we have meteorology. This is the study of the atmosphere from the ground to outer space. Now, exactly where that line is, again, there's some overlap that we're going to have there. This is where all of our weather comes, as well as looking at the ozone layer and how our atmosphere actually protects us from debris from outer space. Geology is the study of planet Earth, so its composition, its structure, its processes, its history. This is going to include volcanoes, earthquakes, plate tectonics, as well as processes that shape the Earth. Now, each of these classes have multiple university level classes dedicated to each portion. This class covers all of them. So obviously we're not going to be able to cover any one area in great depth. We'll cover the surface of a lot of different areas that will help you deepen the knowledge that you've gained in previous classes and maybe make it to where you can see if there's something that you want to study later on. Now, one last thing, that astronomy, meteorology, and geology, sometimes they include that together and call it Earth and Space Sciences. This doesn't follow necessarily along with the units I have, because remember I have a unit on waves, electricity, and nuclear chemistry, but then I've taken the meteorology and geology. I think those two are combined together. But don't worry, you will cover a little bit of all of these. So science in general has strengths, but it also has weaknesses. So the strength of science is that findings can be verified by repeating measurements or observations. So it's not just a fluke, something that only happened once. If it's actually going to be scientific, our scientific studies, it's going to be something that we repeat over and over and over again. But we also have a lot of weaknesses. Well, I don't want to say a lot. We do have some weaknesses. We are limited to study things that can be measured. So we can't answer theological questions. We can't answer ethical questions. We can talk about what's happening with the fetus at any point during a pregnancy, but whether abortion is right or wrong, as scientists, we can't make that decision. We can't say which smells worse, skunk or pig manure, or which one's more valuable, gold or steel. Society makes those decisions. Um, we're just going to provide some of that information about what it is and why it is.